Sai, have you ever run into a technical issue with an electronic device and the only solution you could think of was to actually reboot it?
Yes, sure. That's my first thought, to reboot the system, and it usually magically fixes the issue.
But a skilled engineer might have to actually find out what is the main root cause and then find a particular fix for that issue.
How would one go about doing that? Because there could be a lot of reasons why a particular system or a device or a network is failing. How can we do that?
We can use large language models. That there's a lot of buzz about generative AI to actually do that. So there is a technique known as RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, that can help a NOC engineer or any other skilled engineer quickly find the right information to help solve a particular issue.
I've heard about generative AI and LLMs, but in this scenario, a NOC engineer will have a lot of documentation, a lot of product documents, troubleshooting tickets, troubleshooting information to go through. How can a NOC engineer go through all of them and come up with a solution?
Yeah, so let me explain this RAG framework a little bit for you. So as you mentioned, there are a lot of different data sources. We have product documentation. We have previous incidents that might be similar. We also have FAQ documentation, trouble ticket information. So a lot of different diverse set of data sets which a NOC engineer might have to go through. But we can actually chunk all of this data. Then we can run it through an embedding model and convert this text data into numerical values and store those in a vector database. Now, when a NOC engineer has a question, he or she can ask that question to the vector database. It can retrieve the most relevant information and pass that information over to a large language model. The large language model is able to then generate an answer and send that back to the NOC engineer, who can then use that to solve the issue.
Okay, so this is how the application will look like. The NOC engineer basically asking a question, and we use all of the data that we have in terms of incident-related data, trouble tickets, and we get the relevant information, relevant incidents back, and is displayed back to the NOC engineer. So how else can we use generative AI and LLMs in NOC scenarios?
Sure. So another thing we can use is to generate summaries or summarization of previous incidents and similar tickets that were in the past. We can create a summary of those using a large language model and present that information to a NOC engineer.
Okay, so the NOC engineer, all the NOC engineer needs to do is type in a question and get all of the relevant information, and also get the summary basically to look at what could have happened in that particular instance. That is great, but in certain instances where the NOC engineer needs to actually create a trouble ticket to be able to solve a particular issue, can we have generative AI help in that aspect?
Absolutely. So we can also do things like generation of particular fields in a trouble ticket. So let's say we have a trouble ticket with a whole lot of fields where there are some text fields, some other fields that a large language model can automatically pre-populate for a NOC engineer to quickly review and submit the information.
That is great. So all the NOC engineer needs to look at is the created auto-generated trouble ticket to look at all the fields that were pre-populated and just review them. But also, how do we define which team this trouble ticket gets assigned to, and the kind of severity and that kind of complexity for that trouble ticket? Can we have generative AI help in that aspect?
Absolutely. So large language models can also do classification. So based on previous and similar incidents, a large language model can decide which is the best team to solve that particular issue. It can also classify priority as well as severity based on similar previous incidents.
Okay, that is great. So using all of this information, the NOC engineer will be able to use this information, create the trouble ticket, and submit them so that it gets assigned to the right team. But let's say in this scenario, the engineer or the developer who's picking up this ticket needs some help with creating a fix for this issue.
Absolutely. So we can also do code generation to actually generate the code that's required to fix the issue.
Code generation, that looks interesting. Can you explain more about code generation and how can we use generative AI in that?
Sure. So there are a lot of large language models that's trained specifically on code. So it can actually generate code based on, troubleshooting steps, or it can also assist a developer who's writing the code to do code completion and other things so that the developer can quickly write the code that's required to solve the particular issue.
Okay, that is great. So the developer needs to look at the code, review it, maybe import it into his environment, into his or her environment, and just be able to execute that and be able to fix this issue.
Absolutely.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so next time you have an issue, don't just think of rebooting it. You can actually use generative AI to do a whole lot of these things and then actually find the root cause and solve the issue.
Absolutely. Using all of this, I can definitely do that. If you like this video and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or want to share your thoughts about this topic, please leave a comment below.